Hello guys, welcome to the Monstah Gymwear channel. We're going to talk a little bit about the prejudging that went down yesterday evening. And I was shocked to see that the level of conditioning that Big Ramy was in. They always complain that he's the biggest guy around. He has a great symmetry, proportion, he's well balanced, but he never brought that conditioning. Well, I want to tell you guys, last night he brought it, and definitely he should win the Mr. Olympia 2020. Phil, I'm sorry, but Phil was a disappointment. His stomach was still like big as ever, and he was not really conditioned from the back, which is known for. He usually comes in with tight glutes and tight hamstrings, and those were actually non-existent. So I don't think this time around they're going to deny Big Ramy. Big Ramy should be the 2020 Miss Olympia.
Today's show was sponsored by BigPeakTraining.com.
Prejudging for men's open bodybuilding just wrapped up. It's been a long night tonight. It's been like 4 or 5 hours of live stream tonight, and to be fair, it was a pretty good live stream. I was pretty happy with the overall quality of the live stream. I had not a single lag in that entire live stream, so I hope you guys bought the live stream. But let's get straight into the first call out of men's open bodybuilding here. I could not be more excited for this. So in the first call out, it was a little bit surprising. You had Hadi, you had Ramy, Phil, Brandon, Bonac, and Akeem Williams. So Dexter Jackson was not in that first call out. So that was kind of surprising to me. That was the first thing that surprised me right off the bat. So the first call out, as you can see here, they've got Phil and Brandon in the middle. Obviously, the two past Mr. Olympia champions, they're keeping them in the center. But let's cut over for a second and talk about the big question that everybody's had, and that is, how does Phil look? So let's look at Phil's individual routine really quick here. So Phil, I was actually pretty impressed. I think he looked good. I think his conditioning was good. I don't think didn't look horrible. I thought he had a lot better control over the midsection, which is the big thing that we've been talking about, is between the transitions, between the poses. It's just Phil maintaining control over it and not letting it spill out. But the thing about his midsection that a lot of people noticed, a lot of you guys messaged me right away, is the scarring from the surgery that he had after the 2018 Mr. Olympia to do repairs on the hernias that he had, the umbilical hernia. So I did notice with his midsection, I didn't notice like a big protrusion issue, but I did notice some scarring and maybe a little bit of kind of like a watery film over his midsection. But I want to give Phil credit. I don't think that Phil's midsection was a quote-unquote bubble gut. I think he had pretty decent control over it for the entirety of prejudging. But the one thing that I noticed was it did have this weird look to it because of the scarring, but I don't think it was really necessarily a bubble gut type of thing that we were dealing with here. So overall, I think Phil looked good. But let's go back to the first call out here for a second. So the thing that jumped out to me is Brandon looked really, really tight in this lineup. Like, his conditioning looked really good next to a lot of these guys. And I had been saying this for the majority of the Olympia lead up. I don't think that Phil is going to have an easy victory over Brandon. I've thought this the whole time, that Brandon is going to really challenge him. And based on this call out, I think Brandon looked sharp enough and he looked good enough to where Phil looked good. Like I said, he looks good, but he didn't look great. I think Brandon looked great here. Brandon's color was spot on. His posing oil was spot on. His conditioning, to me, looked spot on, especially when you compared him with the other guys. Like I said, he looked really sharp. And next to Phil, he looked really sharp. And I think maybe this is a situation where Phil might be the more complete bodybuilder. But sometimes even when bodybuilders are more complete, they have trouble beating a less complete bodybuilder that's in better shape. And based on what I'm seeing in this, it looks to me like Brandon is in better shape than Phil. And I think we're going to have a serious battle between Brandon and Phil. I don't think there's going to be a clear winner. And it's hard for me to predict who's going to win based on what we've seen so far, because I think it is. I really think it's close. So if we look at Ramy in this lineup, Ramy to me did look improved from what we saw at the Arnold Classic. But to me, I don't see Ramy in the conversation for winning this show, especially when they turned around and hit some back shots. You could really see that Ramy was lacking in detail, where Phil and Brandon had a ton of detail in their backs. And Ramy, like I said, I do think he looked improved, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win the show for sure. I think it's definitely a show between Brandon and Phil. I think that's the main takeaway from this prejudging. I was actually kind of surprised that for most of this call out, it seemed like they had Rami next to Phil and they had Hadi on the end of that call out, because to me, I thought Hadi's conditioning, Hadi looked very similar to how he looked last year. He brought last year's package, was third place. Hadi was the people's champ last year, and he had amazing conditioning. So him bringing the same package this year, I think is very impressive. I think Hadi looks really sharp. And overall, if it were me judging the show, my top 3, looking at this lineup, I would say Rami, Phil, and Brandon are in the lead right now, just by where they position them. And I'm watching it live right now, and they just did a call out with only 4 guys. Bonac, Rami, Brandon, and Phil. And honestly, I would have really liked to see Hadi in that top 4 instead of Bonac, just because I think Hadi's conditioning was to a point where I just think he really stood out on stage. I think he might have got overlooked here, and hopefully at the finals tomorrow night, again, make sure you guys buy the live stream to watch the finals. Don't do any illegal streams or anything, but hopefully at the finals tomorrow night, they put Hadi in a call-out like that, in a top 4 call-out, a top 3 call-out. Move him around next to Bonac. Move him around next to Rami and Brandon and Phil. Give him a little bit more of a comparison there. But it looks like, based on what we're seeing in this final call-out, you've got Rami, you've got Brandon, you've got Bonac, and you've got Phil. And now that they're moving Rami around a little bit more, I gotta say, Rami does look really impressive here. Rami, we've really got ourselves a competition on our hands, because honestly, I don't know who's in the lead right now. I could have, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to tell. We've got a really competitive show. Everybody thought that Phil was going to kind of run away with this title. I really don't know. I mean, Brandon could win. Rami could win. It could really go any way, because Rami, I think Brandon's got really good conditioning. Phil is Phil. He's very complete. He's very round. He's very full. 7-time Mr. Olympia. He's got that prestige factor. But Rami is just outsizing everybody. And the fact that Rami came in with good conditioning, I think, is what is really sealing the deal for him in that top 3. I think there's no way that Rami is outside of the top 3. He definitely looks better here than he looked at the 2020 Arnold Classic. I don't know. The lighting here, I do want to say, the lighting for men's open bodybuilding, it is different than it was for the 212 prejudging. It's not as good as the 212 lighting was. From what I'm seeing of Rami so far, and what I can tell from this lighting so far, this might be one of the best or better conditioned versions of Rami that we've seen. He doesn't appear smaller. I mean, everyone's saying his weight is going to be a lot less. He's like 20 pounds lighter. He's in the 290s or 280s or whatever. Saying we're going to see a small Rami. He doesn't look small on stage, but he does look like he's in better shape. And honestly, I think this could go any way. I think the night show tomorrow is going to be super exciting, because I don't see a clear winner right now. I think Phil looks good, but I do think he's off. I just got to say it. I think he looks good, but he doesn't look great. I think Phil's off. I think Brandon is spot on 105%, and Rami is like right there. Rami's like 99%. I don't know about you guys right now, but I am so excited to watch the finals tomorrow, because this is competitive. There's no runaway winner here. I mean, this isn't one of those things where you're just going to have somebody walk away with the title, and I love it. We finally have a real battle for this title. I don't see a clear winner here. I see a lot of guys that look good. All right, so they just did one more call out. Again, I'm watching it live. Another top 6 call out here. So in this call out, they've got Brandon, they've got Bonac, they've got Rami, they've got Phil, they've got Hadi, and they've got Akeem again. So they put Hadi back in this lineup, and the way they've moved Hadi around, I think they're comparing Bonac and Hadi for 4th for sure. And they've had Phil and Rami in the center of this call-out for pretty much the entirety of it. It's been a pretty long call-out. So it looks to me like the judges are leaning towards either Phil or Rami. But then again, towards the end, they did move Brandon back into the middle against Rami. It looks like they're comparing guys, the top guys, Phil and Brandon, against Rami. So Rami is really in the mix here, and I got to give him credit. I think Rami, don't be surprised if Rami wins this show. I mean, I think he could do it. He really looks good. He's got the size. The separation in his legs from the side is nutty next to these guys. I mean, Rami, man, it's so exciting, because honestly, Rami could win this show based on what I'm seeing here. Rami looks really good. This is probably the best version of Rami I've seen at the Olympia since maybe 2017. I don't know. This could really go any way, but I think for sure what we're talking about here is your top 3 is going to be Phil, Rami, and Brandon, but it's hard to say. I think Phil, I don't want to criticize Phil too heavily, but I do think in this final top 6 call out, everybody's breathing a little bit heavy. Everybody's fading a little bit maybe. And Phil, I think at some point started to lose control of his midsection during this final top 6 call out. So I do want to point that out. And again, it looks like they're comparing Hadi and Bonac for 4th. I would have Hadi in 4th personally. I think he's got a little bit more detail and a little bit sharper, stands out a little bit more on stage from a conditioning standpoint than Bonac does. So I think, I don't know how to predict this, man. I think I could predict 4 through 6. I think it's going to be, I'm saying Hadi in 4th, Bonac in 5th, Akeem in 6th. And it looks like, I don't know. I think Phil and Rami are going to be 1 and 2. I don't know what exactly, just the way they're moving these guys around, they're really comparing Phil and Rami very heavily. And I think that would mean that those are the guys they're looking at as the 2 best guys. They've got them in the middle. They're comparing them. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Give me your Olympia predictions. Spam that comment section with your winner of the 2020 Mr. Olympia. I want to know. Let me know. Spam it. Make sure you guys buy that live stream tomorrow. It's very important. Support bodybuilding.